ready to start the recording. Good evening, members of the Council, officers of Rother District Council, and members of the public, whether attending in person or watching online. Welcome to the first full Council meeting of Rother District Council in 2025. Do I have your approval to sign the minutes of the Council meeting held on the 16th of December as a correct record of the proceedings, please? Thank you. Do I have any apologies for absence, please?
Yes, Chair. Councillors Hacking and Haywood.
Thank you. And members attending remotely tonight are Councillors Cooper and Ganley. And Councillor Giawan as well. Thank you. Can I just remind everybody that members attending remotely are unable to move, second or vote on any matter in accordance with our hybrid formal meeting protocol. So now we come to item 3, disclosures of interest. Are there any disclosures by members of interest and any dispensations in matters on the agenda? If so, please declare the nature of any such interest under the terms of the Code of Conduct. Councillor Maynard.
Thank you, Chairman. Just in terms of agenda item 7, as an elected member of East Sussex County Council.
Councillor Field.
Same interest.
Thank you. Councillor Timpey.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Trustee of Delaware Pavilion, item number 8 in the budget.
Thank you. Councillor, Councillor Grayson, sorry. Sorry, you put this up.
Item 12, just to say I manage a licensed premises in Rother, so it would be affected.
And I think Councillor Grayson was next. No? Okay. Yes, sorry, yes.
Same as Councillor Field, item 7. I'm a member of East Sussex County Council.
Thank you very much. Councillor Field again.
Also trustee of the Delaware.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor McGurk.
Item 8, budget, trustee of director of Rother Housing Company, in case it comes up.
Thank you. Any further ones? And myself as chair of the Rother District Housing Company.
Councillor Cooper.
Sorry, who is it?
Councillor Cooper.
Oh, Councillor Cooper online. Thank you. Any others?
The same, yeah. The director of Rother Housing Company.
Thank you. And any others? No? Are there then any other declarations? Can I just remind members to renew those declarations at the time when the relevant item is reached on the agenda? Thank you. Now we come to my communications. So, first of all, my own engagements. In contrast to the period before Christmas, it has been relatively quiet. But that was not true of the first engagement, which was the Polegate pantomime, which was Sleeping Beauty. It was packed to the gills with mayors and chairs. Now, as you may know, pantomimes feature impossible stories in implausible settings. And so it proved. The handsome prince, in order to reach the palace, had to contend with road closures, potholes, and lavatories that were closed. I mean, how implausible can the setting get? The actors somehow held the civic party culpable for this state of affairs, and so they faced the firing squad, fortunately only from water pistols. At the end, that thin veil between illusion and reality was ripped apart when the director of music went down on his knees before us and proposed marriage to the voice coach. She accepted, there and then. Well, with that story at the beginning of their relationship, I'm sure that they will live happily ever after. Following that, I was helped to organise a quiz for the RDC charity, the Food Bank. I'd like to thank councillors and the public for generous support, the staff of the Manor Bar, Councillor Jimmy Stanger for invaluable help, and Councillor Brian Drayson for his always stimulating stint as a quirky, quality quizmaster. Well done, those people. £565 was raised for Food Bank, alongside a further £720 from my participation in the Santa Run. And on top of that, many quizzes brought with them hundreds of pounds worth of food to be donated to the Food Bank. 3 other events also deserve a mention. The presentation of the cheque for £25,000 for the Rother Lottery. Councillor Prochak was the person who made the presentation, and that's most appropriate, Sue, because you were the person who had the idea for the Rother Lottery in the first place. Well done, Sue. A second was a thorough visit with Councillors Oliver, Lorna Ford and Andrew Dallance to the Coombe Valley Hospital, a project which the Council has supported and expedited that will transform mental health services in the district. And lastly, I made a visit to Tinning Green in Rye to support the Love Rother Day led by Strand Liners, which is a splendid example of an organisation which exemplifies the principle, think globally, act locally. There couldn't be a better example of the day which brought a community together for a worthwhile purpose. And now I come to some more sad news, and that is of the parting of 2 former members of this council. Namely, Councillor Robert Elliston, who represented Ticehurst and Etchingham Ward. He was first elected in November 2005 and stood down in 2019, and I'm sure that some of you will remember him. He served as Vice Chair of Council in 2009 to 2010 and Chairman in 2010 to 11. During his time at Rother, he served on the Licensing and General Purposes Committee, the Services and Resources, Overdue and Scrutiny Committees, the Planning Committee and the Standards Committee. Secondly, Nigel Lockwood, Councillor Nigel Lockwood, who served in the 1990s representing Battle. He served on many committees of the Council, including Regeneration and Tourism, Policy and Resources, Housing Services, Environmental Services and Community and Environment. It is understood that he played a key role in the large-scale voluntary transfer of the Council's housing stock to Rother Homes, which was the original registered provider in the 1990s. I send, on behalf of you and the Council, condolences to their respective families. I'm sure there are some of you who would like to add something at your end. Councillor Mary Barnes, please.
Thank you very much indeed, Chairman. And it was with enormous sadness that I heard of the death of Robert just before Christmas. He was my co-member on the council, in those days representing Ticehurst and Etchingham. He was one of the nicest people and tremendously well thought of in Ticehurst. He was the owner of the chemist shop, and he was very happy always to give advice to anybody who called at the shop with an ache or a pain, and he would come up with a solution, and everybody thought he was, and quite rightly, he was absolutely marvellous. For pretty well the rest of the time that he represented the council, he was my chauffeur, because he said, oh, well, 2 of us driving, there's no point in both, I will take you. So we used to have these wonderful journeys across, and he used to say things like, you know, this must be the best journey to work that anybody could possibly have, as we went along the tops, sort of keeping well away from the A21, and that beautiful, beautiful sweep of countryside that we enjoyed so much as we travelled along together. He probably didn't say very much at meetings, and I said to him once, why don't you say more planning? And he said, well, there's no point really in going over things that people have already said. So therefore, you know, if I agree, that's fine, I won't say anything. But he did make a contribution. And I think he was extremely well thought of by the then council, right across the political divide, because he was really such a nice man. Councillor Kirby Green and I attended his funeral, which was, I think, last week, the week before. And sadly, not very many people from Rother were able to be there. But we did hear such nice words said about him at the address. So he's very much in my thoughts, because you know I really am sad at the passing of such a gentleman. He was really a gentleman, a lovely man, and I certainly will miss him. It's just so very infrequently that one gets a chance to actually be engaged in politics with somebody who has everybody's wishes in Westville at heart, because he was just like that. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. He sounds a wonderful man, and thank you for those touching words, Mary. Who else would like to say something, please? Yes, Councillor Maynard, please.
Thank you very much indeed, Chairman, and I'd like to add my condolences to Robert's family on his passing. He certainly was, as Councillor Barnes has said, Robert was a gentleman, and he was, by anybody's standards, a quiet, reserved man. But when he did say something, it was always worth listening to. And I can remember very vividly, I think it was back in 2009, when we were considering the next chairman or vice chairman of the council, as it was, to go forward to be chairman. And it was because that Robert had come out to Westfield Surgery to talk to the management and indeed the doctors about pharmacy reprovision. And he was absolutely passionate about that and engaged with everybody so effectively. And I thought, you know, up until that point, I hadn't really known Robert well, and I took the time to have a really long discussion with him about whether a civic role would suit him. And Robert turned out to be one of the most exemplary vice chairman and then chairman of this council that we've ever had. He took to it like a duck to water. He was an excellent chairman. But he wasn't just an excellent chairman, he was a diligent ward councillor, and as you've already heard, he attended a number of committees. He spent 14 and a half years on this council. He will be missed. It was nice, I think, that he certainly wasn't fired by the electorate. He retired in his, as it was then, in his early 80s, I think, round about 80, I think. He enjoyed, obviously, winning every election that he fought. And I think I can speak on behalf of residents of that part of Rother that he was very well respected, very well liked. And I think it's probably fair to say that he was very much a local ward councillor who put politics aside. He was a local ward councillor, as many are, who was somebody who absolutely put the people first. I don't think I ever heard him say a political speech in all the time I knew him, but that took nothing away from the fact that he was an excellent councillor, and when he was chairman, he was an excellent ambassador and representative of Rother. So condolences to his family. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carl, for those warm words. Thank you. Anybody else like to contribute? Councillor Phil, please.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to say a few words about Nigel Lockwood, because I don't think many people here would have known him. Indeed, I think not everybody here was born when he was on this council. He represented Battle, I think, for 2 terms, and was passionate about Battle and passionate about the council. And as we heard in your resume of his work here, worked very hard on behalf of councillors and the council and residents of Rother. He was a deeply caring man, and Councillor Prochek and I went to his funeral, and I was accompanied by my youngest son, because not only was he a passionate and very good councillor, he was an absolutely amazing teacher. And Alexander came with me because he said he was the only teacher in all his career who'd made a difference to him and really cared. And so he'll be sadly missed. He was only 70 when he died. I remember him, as I said, as a caring man. He took us all fossil hunting on one occasion to Folkestone with our little hammers. Didn't find anything, but we had a nice day at the seaside. So, yes, he'll be missed. He was young, went before his time, sadly with a brain tumour, and a good man, as indeed are so many councillors. Thank you.
Catherine. Anybody else like to join in at this point? Yes, Councillor Clark, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, I do remember Nigel Lockwood. When I was first elected in 91, all the housing meetings were at Watch Oak at Battle, and we used to travel over there, and he was very, very passionate about housing, and it was said, worked very hard for the handover from Rother to community housing, and very affable man, he was easily approachable, very, very knowledgeable, and his skills and what he learned in education was very useful on the council as well. And he was a very, very nice man indeed. And yes, I do remember him very well.
Thank you very much. Clearly 2 people very worthy of affection and admiration. I'd like to thank members for their touching tributes. All right, now we go on to agenda item 5, public question time. To answer questions from members of the public, if any, in accordance with paragraph 11 of the Council Procedure Rules, and there's a time limit on this of 30 minutes. And question 1 is from Mr. Bernard Brown to Councillor Oliver. Mr. Brown, would you like to read out your question in full?
I'm quite happy to assume that the councillors have read the question rather than waste your time reading it out.
Certainly. Would you like to ask your question then, please?
So I'm happy for it to be just answered.
Back to Councillor Oliver. Councillor Oliver, please.
Thank you, Mr. Brown, and I do hope you're in good health. I think we have met earlier last year, and I hope that your health is in good at this moment in time. So I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Mr. Brown for his question. As outlined in your question, the scheme involves the redevelopment of the Town Hall and Amherst Road buildings with a value of £0.86 million held on the balance sheet. Planning permission was initially refused on October 2022, and additional work was undertaken to address the concerns raised. Several scheme options have been appraised, and a further report is due to come forward this calendar year for consideration by members. The majority of costs to date cover professional fees associated with the scheme, and these costs include design works and planning submissions to enable the wider business case to be developed for approval and delivery. These costs have been capitalised to date, and evaluation will be undertaken once the scheme is operational. The professional fees incurred to date have been necessary to obtain the scheme designs to support the planning approval process. This is a major scheme for the council, and as such will incur significant professional fees throughout the life of the project. These costs have been capitalised as per normal accounting practice and are all part of bringing the proposals into operation. This approach has been agreed by the council's external auditors, Grant Thornton, as part of the audit process for the council's 2023/24 draft accounts. The council's accounts are already considered by the audit committee and form part of their annual work programme.
Thank you, Councillor Oliver. Mr. Brown, would you like to ask a supplementary question arising out of the answer given, please?
Yes, thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Councillor Oliver, for your reply. What I want to do is just a very brief context thing. If we look at one of the answers given by Councillor Oliver, which says the majority of the costs to date cover professional fees associated with the scheme, and these costs include all design works and planning submissions to enable the wider business case to be developed for approval and delivery. These costs have been capitalised to date, and evaluation will be undertaken once the scheme is operational. And this does come to the heart of the matter, because as far as I can see, there's no scheme in existence. All the published documents since October 2024 for the Council's capital programme, there is no capital project called the Town Hall project. So there is £863,000 sitting in an assets under construction account, effectively a suspense account, in the balance sheet for a project which is not in the Council's capital programme. So going on from there, I think my real supplementary is, will Councillor Oliver agree, in the latest capital programme approved in Council on the 16th of December, there is no Town Hall project. There is no external planning and design work billed for more than 15 months. So the last work was done on this was in November 2023. No revised design has been published for the project. No construction plan has been issued for the project. No estimated completion date has been set for the project. No budgeted costs have been set for the project. And no auditable estimated asset value exists. Yet it is on the balance sheet as an asset under construction. I don't understand how you have an asset under construction when you haven't even got a plan to build anything. I believe in the answer, Councillor.
Sorry, if I can,
I'm literally
can I
2
just say,
seconds away.
really is...
Councillor,
Please, just wait a moment. Please can I emphasise, it's an opportunity to ask a supplementary question, rather than to make a complete speech. So it's very great if you could get...
The question,
please, if you could get
sorry,
the question as soon as possible, please.
The Chairman's question was, did Councillor Oliver agree with these statements? And the final thing is that in his answer, he says that there will be a report in this calendar year. At the last Cabinet meeting, it said it will be in March this year. So we agree that it would be a good idea to reconsider the thing, because we are using creative accounting, and usually that hides concerns. Thank you.
Councillor Oliver, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Brown. I'm not quite sure what totally the question was, but given the fact that the approach that we've taken to this has been agreed by our external auditors, so I think that's an important fact. And we're looking at other options to come forward, and the timeline on that, I don't have an answer for that, but I will check with the senior officers and come back to you in writing.
Thank you, Councillor Oliver. Mr. Brown, thank you very much for submitting your question. As you'll be aware, you now have the choice to either remain in the meeting or go as you wish. Thank you very much indeed. We now come to agenda item 6, which should be member question time, but no questions were submitted by the deadline, and so I shall move straight to item 7 to receive the recommendations from Cabinet. Councillor Oliver again, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to move that, with the exception of minute CB 24/70, being the budget and medium-term financial plan for 25, 26, 28, 29, that shall be taken at agenda item 8, that the report of the meeting held on the 6th of January and the recommendations of the Independent Remuneration Panel as set out in the appendix to the report be approved and adopted. And I would like to take this opportunity of thanking the panel of the Independent Remuneration Panel, ably supported by Head of Democratic Services, Lisa Cooper, for preparing this work.
Councillor Oliver. Because we are aware that there is just a 1 minute here, which Councillor Oliver has referred to, I shall now open this matter up for debate. So any contributions, please, in relation to that? Thank you.
Needs to be seconded, Chair.
Oh, sorry, yes, my apologies. Can I have a seconder to the motion? Yes, Councillor. Sorry, thank you. Yes. Now I open up the subject for debate. Does anybody wish to say anything on this subject, please? No? There being no debate, I shall move to the vote. This means that you're now voting on the Cabinet recommendation. All those in favour, please show. And all those against, please show. And are there any abstentions? In which case, I say this motion has been carried. We now move to item 9, the budget. Sorry, but 8, yes, sorry. Item 8, and this is the budget for 2025 to 26, and it's considering and if thought fit to pass a resolution in the terms set out in the report in accordance with Council Law 17.5. Please be reminded that in accordance with legislation, a vote by roll call will be taken on the substantive motion and any amendments made to the budget. The Democratic Services Manager will be asked to read out the names of each member present and record those for, against and abstaining for each vote. Councillor Thill, please.
Redeclare my interest.
Sorry.
Redeclare my interest.
Thank you. Councillor Maynard. Thank you. Any other? Councillor Timpey?
Yeah,
yes.
redeclare. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further declarations? No? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry, Kirby Green, thank you. Okay, there we go, thank you. Right. Okay, Councillor Oliver.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to move that the Council Procedure Rules 15.4, Content and Length of Speeches, and the item 15.5, when a member may speak again, be waived for discussion on this item.
Thank you, Councillor Oliver. Do I have a seconder to the motion, please? Yes, I do, Councillor Projek. Okay, now we need to take a vote on that. Those in favour of that motion, please show. Thank you very much. Those against? And any abstentions? That motion is carried. And now we come to the main substance. Councillor Oliver again, please.
Well, thank you, Chairman. I'd like to move the motion, the report, CB 24/70, from the meeting held on the 3rd of February and the resolution set out within the report be approved and adopted. I would like to take this opportunity of thanking the Finance Director and his team for bringing forward the budget under such challenging circumstances, and I think we need to acknowledge that. I think the work that's been undertaken also by our colleagues within the Overview and Scrutiny Committee was very much valued, and I know this was valued by the officers in bringing this budget to the position that it's in. It's been a very challenging time for all local authorities, and I think we should be immensely pleased with ourselves that we have a balanced budget and that we're in a situation as we are going forward into really uncertain future of what might be out there, besetting the local authorities under reorganisation. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Councillor Oliver. Do I have a second for the motion, please? Councillor Stanger. Thank you. I now open the motion to the floor. Osborne, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I thought I would say something as Chairman of Scrutiny. Obviously, we've done our work. We had our ideas. I'm glad that the leader has appreciated the work and others have appreciated the work that we've done. Our sort of tweaks and changes have been adopted by the financial team, and I'm happy to support the budget. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Stanger, please.
Just want to thank Overview and Scrutiny and senior members and all involved Cabinet for listening to some of the review, concerns about the car parking charges and adapting when we need to. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Oliver, please.
Yes, I would just add the fact that I think the consultation that we undertook with residents was an overwhelming success. And it's important, if you undertake a consultation, you then react to it accordingly. It's not just there to say, well, thank you for consulting, coming back to us, but it's important that we actually act on that. And I believe that officers and members acknowledge that, which I think has brought us to where we are at this moment in time. Thank you.
Councillor Oliver. Councillor Maynard, please.
Thank you very much indeed, Chairman. I think that it has to be said that I wouldn't disagree with anything that's already been said, but it was clear that when the issue of car parking charges came up at scrutiny, that there was a robust and full discussion about that, and as Councillor Oliver has referred to, a significant local concern in respective parts of Rother as to the increases it proposed, well, not increases, proposed levy of car parking charges in car parks that we own where there hadn't been charges before, and quite frankly, the whole idea was absolutely bananas. I mean, there's no doubt about it that many of these car parks are used by people either to drop their children off to school or to visit a local pharmacy or doctor's surgery. And I'm really pleased that what Scrutiny put forward was taken on board fully by Cabinet. I think that is something that, without exception, I think there will be unanimity within this chamber this evening to support those changes that went through scrutiny and then through to Cabinet. From our perspective on this side of the chamber, I think our concerns remain the same, and that is, broadly speaking, especially through scrutiny, back in 2020 we were calling for a more aggressive savings strategy, and frankly that savings strategy has not delivered in the past few years. There have clearly been some savings, but we need to take a long, hard look at everything that this council does to make sure that there is a renewed vigour around that savings agenda as we go forward. And I think the other thing I would say, and in doing so, Chairman, I'll obviously redeclare that personal interest once again, being an elected member of East Sussex County Council. But as we go forward now, we are in interesting times in terms of the unitary authority that will inevitably come and replace both East Sussex County Council and Rother District Council. But I think we should not only, and I'm really pleased with what's been going on in the background in terms of we know that the officers of the respective authorities are working hard, we know members are working hard to make sure that this is as seamless as possible. But I don't think anybody can be under any illusion that budgets, both here and at East Sussex County Council, indeed the other districts and boroughs in East Sussex, are going to be extremely challenging as we go forward towards that authority. So there is still a huge onus of financial responsibility upon all members of this chamber and any others in East Sussex or within East Sussex. But I would say that we mustn't lose sight of what I've mentioned before, both at scrutiny and at Cabinet, and that is the devolution agenda that has faltered here, that we now see some, I think, genuine re-engagement with parish and town councils, that we don't lose sight of that, we don't leave it to any subsequent authority, that we actually see the opportunities that are there both to make savings and potentially to improve services for local residents, and that we absolutely commit to that devolution agenda in the most open and transparent way we possibly can. We know there have been problems before. We know on all sides of this chamber that as local members and with our parish and town councils lobbying us, we know that there have been significant problems, and that's why we haven't delivered what we would have liked to have seen delivered in terms of devolution. But we must remember, and I think there is a real emphasis that we need to place on this in terms of how we relate to parish and town councils as we go forward is hugely important, because their role is not going to be diminished by devolution. It is very, very clear that as we go forward that they will have more varied responsibility. That will be challenging to them, which is why that dialogue between parish and town councils and all of the authorities that they find above themselves is carried out in as most open and transparent way, and a really collegiate approach. What I want to see is a collegiate approach across the political spectrum, knowing that the changes in local government don't just involve the deletion of district to borough councils and obviously the county council as well and a new unitary, but it's vital that we remember and we engage with parish and town councils now and not leave it for any subsequent authority to devolve services to them. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Very much, Councillor Maynard. I think Councillor Kirby-Green, you were indicating earlier. No? No, okay. Yes, please. Councillor Coleman.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And I think I agree with pretty much most of what Councillor Maynard says. I should check what's in my coffee, shouldn't I? But in that terms of a collegiate approach, I agree. I think we need to really focus on devolution going forward, and I give a lot of praise to our Chief Executive and the Leader of the Council for pushing some of the reforms and changes that have come forward in terms of how we deal with our town and parish councils, because that relationship does need to be improved and emboldened, because those are the key to protecting these services when we go forward to a new authority. And things like car parks, I won't mention public toilets, and other things need to be protected, and town and parish councils are the best way to do that. I think this budget, particularly on the element of car parks, and obviously colleagues will all know that Councillor Chowdhury and I campaign quite heavily in Sidley to keep our car park free, because it is part of the lifeblood of our high street. It's used by our school parents, and I'm really glad to see that scrutiny listened to that Cabinet and my colleagues in Cabinet listened to those concerns, and that we changed the budget accordingly. And I think that really does show that we do listen to consultation, we do listen to what the public says. I think when this administration first came in 2019, one of the first things we did was listen to the Community Governance Review consultation and institute a Bexhill Town Council, because the public were asking for more local democracy in Bexhill. And here we are now, again, listening to the public, altering our course slightly to really achieve that balance between not succumbing to managed decline, but also keeping a fair and balanced budget in very difficult financial circumstances. So I fully support this budget. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Chair. Well, it sounds like agreement's breaking out, which is always nice. And just to support the comments about devolution, and the way in which, just to share an observation, that I think, you know, what's happening at the moment seems to be promoting a renewed interest and engagement with democracy, from Councillor Meir writing to Ryan Hughes, and some interesting comments there. But I would just like, and I can't pretend to have any answers to this, but just to highlight the need to grapple with devolving the benefits as well as the burdens that we have responsibilities for to parish and town councils, thinking in terms of RIE, some of the possibilities of sharing assets with the town, but the need to be aware that when talking about car parks, that when it comes to car parks, there are not only car parks, but other means possibly of generating income for towns and parishes that we should bear in mind could be necessary means of supporting meaningful devolution, so that we're not just offloading things that cost money and take time, but that there are assets which are beneficial, potentially beneficial to our communities. So, like I say, I don't have the answers because we're in such difficult financial times, but that's just a plea for me to consider all sides of the argument and the situation when it comes to devolving and sharing power and assets and burdens with parish and town councils.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Are there any more? Yes, Councillor Barnes, please.
I think it would be wrong to let this evening pass without recognising the extremely difficult situation, not only that this authority is in, but all the authorities around us. Effectively, we are taking a 6% cut in the money that government made available to us. I know that the Chief Executive and the leader will be taking up with the LGA the fact that the Rural Service Delivery Grant has been withdrawn. And we all know that in the rural areas, services are more expensive to deliver. And we have huge pockets of deprivation in the rural area, which we do need to take account of and try to help. We're in a very difficult situation ourselves. Every year since 2019, we've been drawing on reserves in order to balance the budget. I'm grateful that overview and scrutiny were listened to, and that we are actually drawing less on the reserves than I think was originally intended. And that's a welcome development. We're also using them to try to ensure that the unprotected services are passed over to authorities that can finance them. Because the one advantage that parish and town councils have over us is that their finance is not capped, their precept is not capped. But make no mistake, the services that are statutory are going to be under threat. We already have virtually the entire coastal strip, apart from ourselves, in deep financial problems, very close to Section 114. And as we go forward to the unitary, unless the government actually grasps the reform of local government finance and finds an adequate tax base for the unitary authority, then we are going to be facing savage cuts as the new authority takes office. So I think it does behove our parish councils and our town councils to really realise that the services that they value, which are not statutory, are the ones that they do need to take over now. The matter is urgent, and we need to make the case very persuasively. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Councillor Barnes. I have to come up Councillor Cook, Burton and Oliver in that order at the moment. So Councillor Cook, I think, is the first.
Thank you very much, Chair, for allowing me to speak. I'm going to bring us back, I'm afraid, to car parking. Yes, it was discussed at overview and scrutiny, and it was discussed again at Cabinet, but I am still very, very disappointed that it has been agreed that lorry parking and coach parking fees at Battle will be introduced. In the comment, it says this is a destination car park, and I'm afraid to say it is not a destination car park. Coaches do not stop all day. The fees at English Heritage are very high, and the majority of coach groups cannot afford to go in there, despite the fact that English Heritage advertise it as free coach parking in Battle to come to their venue. Consequently, we're very much just a P and T stop. and consequently before people then go on to Rye. And we at Battle are very concerned about our high street, where various tourism and hospitality businesses are closing, and we're very worried that soon we will not be a high street worth even stopping for a pee and a cup of tea. We're very concerned about this. Our Marketing and Tourism Strategy Group is looking forward to building a better marketing and tourism strategy, and of course we're looking forward to William 1000. Battle hosts one of the most important battle sites in the whole of this country. Without Battle, we would not be here now, and I'm very, very distressed. I have been assured by both Lorna Ford, the CEO, and Deborah Keneally, the officer, that this will be very closely monitored. And if we, in Battle, and I'm talking here to my two ward colleagues here, we feel that we are being adversely affected by coaches parking in inappropriate places because they won't pay the £10 to park for just the 2 hours they're likely to be there. If we find that, it will be monitored and recorded. So I am very, very disappointed, and I'd like that noted, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cook. Councillor Burton is next.
Thank you, Chair. It's been interesting hearing the discussion about devolvement, and I fully support the moving of decisions to local residents as near as we possibly can. I wanted to talk a little bit about the special expenses, which are mentioned a number of times in this report, particularly in Appendix B. The special expenses apply to Bexhill and Rye, where I understand services are carried out on behalf by Rother District Council on behalf of those town councils. And what comes to mind for me is that if those services, their costs increase, i.e. a greens area is more costly to maintain, that cost increase is absorbed by Rother District Council because their council tax is capped. If a town council manages their own green spaces, they have to come up with another plan. Maybe volunteers do more, or the town council raises their precept. So my point is that because we still have the special expenses arrangement, non-Rye and Bexhill residents are being disadvantaged by this arrangement. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Burton. Councillor Oliver, followed by Councillor Projak. Councillor Oliver, please.
Thank you, Chairman. The points that have been made this evening, and I understand Councillor Maynard's point, but we did, from 2019 onwards, we did go through COVID, and there was an awful lot going on. The future and the financial position was very, very uncertain. And I think it was very, very important as an administration that we actually protected services. Our residents deserve that we protected them after coming out of that very, very difficult global phenomenon of COVID. So I think it was very, very important. At a previous meeting, one or two members have indicated that we should have had perhaps bigger cuts, reducing. That would reduce jobs. And I don't think that's fair. A lot of local authorities have made redundancies, but we have not. We've continued to provide the services. We've now arrived at this point where we're looking to devolve services and facilities to our towns and parishes. And coming forward in the next Cabinet report, there's a very detailed report in there of how we will go about it, how we will engage. And I'm delighted to hear from everyone here this evening that we can achieve this. It's important we achieve it for the benefit of our residents. We're not just here for our own personal political egos. We're here to serve our residents. And that's absolutely vital. And if this way forward is what's going to achieve that, then we must support it. And we can only do that by working together in a very collaborative way to say that we want to achieve the outcome. So protection of services is vital. And there's not only to towns and parishes, there's some excellent community groups out there who are better placed to take on assets and services because it cares to them, they're part of it. They're stewards for the future, for the next generation. And that's part of our role here, to make sure that whatever comes out of this devolution, local government reorganisation, that our residents are first and foremost. And we can do that by protecting these going forward. So I'm delighted to feel that there's this cohesive spirit coming through, because that's the only way we're going to get there. There should be no political division on this. We've got to deliver it. We've got to move it forward. The government of the day, the people are making the decisions. Whether we like it or not, we're going to get there. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Oliver. Councillor Prochet, please.
Thank you. And just to add my congratulations on the budget, all the work that's been done, and it started a long, long time ago, this budget. And when you think that actually we've been served with the same cuts that we've been suffering throughout all these years, this year as well. So that in reality, it's about, in real terms, about a 5% cut to our budget. And again, only a year. And just a health warning on this so-called devolution. We have to see, we don't know yet about devolution. I haven't seen much about the actual devolution, except that the councils are going to have to pay for it, the actual transfer of it. So another health warning there. So I think we've done extraordinarily well, and congratulate officers and Cabinet and Scrutiny for working so hard on it to set a balanced budget, because that's what we have to do. What I wanted to ask was, though, about the parishes. Councillor G. Warren, who's our Cabinet Member for Finance, there are several parishes, quite a number of parishes, who have spent huge amounts of their precepts on chasing a thankless, hopeless, challenging a judicial review. And I just wondered if this was ultra-virus, to actually spend parish money on something nothing to do with their own parish patch. Because it seems to me, I don't know how they're going to explain it to their residents, but there are very large sums of money that have been actually lost. And that's my question.
Thank you, Councillor Prochet. Councillor Clark, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I think you may agree with me, or I think you will. We got 20% less staff than we had a few years ago. And it's only because the staff we've got are so flexible, taking on new roles and moving to other roles, that we've been able to continue. And the theme has always been, myself and most of the councillors, we don't want staff redundancies. Other authorities have had to do that. We've managed not to do that. And it really is because we have an incredible staff team at Robert who are amazing. And it's only because they work with us and embrace all the pressures we put on them that we're in the position we are today. So I really think we should record our thanks to the staff for helping us be in the position we are. I really do.
Okay, I think probably it is the will of this council to record our thanks to the officers who had served us so well in relation to this and other topics. But at the end of this particularly thoughtful debate on this agenda, I now hand over to Lisa Cooper to take a roll call vote. Thank you, Lisa. So just check. There's no more discussion. I hadn't seen anybody indicating, so I assumed there wasn't, and that was right. Yes, and just to emphasise, we're taking all of the recommendations en bloc, okay? And I hand over to Lisa Cooper for the roll call.
Thank you, Chairman. And just to confirm again, the members online, I won't be calling your names because you are unable to vote. John Barnes. Four. Mary Barnes. Four. Bayliss. Four. Biggs. Four. Burton. 4. Byrne. 4. Chowdhury. 4. Clark. 4. Coleman. 4. Mrs Cook. 4. Creaser. 4. Delaney. 4. Drayson.
4.
Field. 4. Gordon.
4.
Gray. 4. Groner. 4. Killeen. Mrs Kirby Green. Legg. 4. Maynard. 4. McCourt.
4.
McGurk.
4.
Mear.
4.
Oliver.
4.
Osborne. 4. Pearce.
4.
Proshak.
4.
Rathbone Ariel.
4.
Stanger.
4.
Thomas.
4.
Timpey. 4. And Winter.
And I announce that that was passed, obviously. Okay. Now we come to agenda item 9, a reconsideration of the third motion from the December Full Council meeting arising from the Audit Committee. So we're now reconsidering that a third motion from the 16th of December about the Audit Committee recommendation concerning the size of the Overview and Scrutiny and Licensing and General Purposes Committee and the frequency of meetings of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee. Councillor Drayson, please.
Thank you, Chair. As you said, this item was this item was deferred from the Council meeting on the 16th of December to allow for further discussions by the committees affected by recommendations 2 and 4 from the Audit Committee report. As a result of those discussions within the Licensing and General Purposes Committee and the Overview and Scrutiny Committee, as contained in the report, I would like to move that the recommendations be amended as follows. That recommendation 2 read, the Overview and Scrutiny Committee be scheduled to meet formally 6 times per year, plus 2 informal meetings to be held over MS Teams in consultation and agreement with the chair of the committee, depending on the nature of the items for discussion. And recommendation 4, that we delete where it says Overview and Scrutiny, so it reads, the number of members appointed to the Licensing and General Purposes Committee be reduced from 12 to 10, with the Overview and Scrutiny Committee remaining as currently constituted. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Jason, do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Barnes, thank you. We now proceed to the debate. Councillor Osborne.
Thank you, Chairman. Just to say I'm happy and concur with the Chairman of Audit. My committee had an informal Teams meeting a couple of weeks ago, and that's what we come up with. We wanted to stay the same size, but we were happy to look at the agenda going forward and have 2 online meetings, probably ones where we get presentations and smaller items. So we are now happy. Thank you.
Definitely an outbreak of unanimity this evening. Councillor Mayor, please.
Yes, and of course I chair the Licensing and General Purposes Committee. We discussed this, and the members of the committee were content with a reduction in the number of councillors on the committee, as is noted in the officer's report supporting the agenda tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Mayor. Councillor Thill, please.
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to comment about Overview and Scrutiny, and I'm delighted that 2 of their meetings are going to be sufficiently informal to be able to be held remotely. I am getting increasingly appalled, actually, at the number of non-statutory meetings we are having to come to the Town Hall to have what of its training. I know members like coming face to face, but when we think we are in a climate emergency, this council has climate reduction targets, I see no point at all in requiring members, if they want to come face to face, have a hybrid meeting. But I don't see any point in requiring members to waste time, emissions and fuel coming to the Town Hall for a meeting which could be held much more effectively or as effectively on Teams. It is something we must think about in view of what's happening in the wider global whole. We have the means to have meetings remotely. We should use that facility and think about our carbon footprint and this council's targets.
Councillor Thill, are there any further contributions on this subject, please? Doesn't look as if there are. Councillor Jason, do you want to say some words in summing up? All right, thank you very much. In which case, I shall now move to the vote. And I'm going to take all those proposals en bloc because nothing in the discussion has indicated that I should do otherwise. So I'll put the motion to the vote. Those in favour, please show. And those against, please show. And no, any abstentions? That looks like it was carried unanimously. Thank you very much. So now, in accordance with Council Procedural 13, consideration be given to the motion to Council which has been submitted by Councillor Coleman, as detailed in your agenda. As a reminder, motions can only be debated for a maximum period of 30 minutes per motion. Councillor Coleman, please.
Oh, yes, thank you, Chair. I guess I sort of bring this motion forward in a similar spirit to the way this meeting this evening's gone, in terms of sort of a cross-party sort of cooperation and a sort of shared interest in sort of a common goal to improve the lives of our residents. I mean, I think most councillors will know that tackling poverty is one of the things that inspired me to get involved in politics, inspired me to first stand when I was 22 years old, and perhaps to my surprise, as well as others, actually get elected and find myself representing my community. And I've done my best, and I hope I've done well, to focus on alleviating poverty as sort of the main push of my politics throughout my time so far on this council. And it's with that spirit that I bring this motion to allow us to reaffirm this council's recognition of the priority of tackling poverty, something that has grown and developed over quite a number of years now, following austerity, following changes to the cost of living, changes, a lack of economic growth, and the recent pandemic as well has worsened issues of poverty. And as you see in my motion, the recent Joseph Rowntree statistics should be enough to chill anyone, that 3 in 10 children, nearly 4 in 10 children over in Hastings and Rye in our area are living in poverty. That means in a classroom of 30, a good section of that class perhaps have not been able to afford breakfast, perhaps might go home and not be able to have a decent meal, might struggle, their parents might struggle to put clothes on their back, and all of the other issues that we see can affect people when they are in financial, economic, health, food, or many other types of poverty. And poverty transcends all generations. There's children in poverty, there's people of working age in poverty, and there are people of pension age in poverty. And whilst the Joseph Rowntree Foundation's report does show that people of pension age are one of the groups that are affected least by poverty, it is still a really important statistic to note that there are pensioners, there are people of pension age who are living in poverty, and anything we can do as local politicians to help alleviate that burden, as with all forms of poverty, we should duly consider. And I think, the recent changes to the winter fuel allowance will have affected members of our community, as undoubtedly any changes to benefits or the way that they're applied, whether they're means tested, will do so. But I really wanted to pay attention and focus on the work of our officers, of the Equalities Steering Group, which I'm really lucky enough to chair, and of members as well, in identifying those residents who unfortunately are caught in that gap between being eligible for pension credit but perhaps not actually receiving it, or just being over the threshold slightly and therefore missing out on winter fuel allowance. And so hopefully I think this motion reaffirms our commitment as a council to tackling poverty across the board and signals that directly to the government in terms of our feelings around tackling poverty going forward. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Coleman. Do I have a seconder to that motion, please?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I second the motion. I also think we should add some figures for context around this motion. I was looking at government figures today, Chair. In 24-25, 303.3 billion will be spent on social security, which is nearly 11% of our GDP, 10.8% to be precise. 55% of that spending on social security expenditure goes to pensioners, the figure of 165.9 billion. And I think it's fair to say that pensioners have done relatively better than other groups in society over a number of years. Now, it's not to say that pensioner poverty isn't a problem, because it clearly is, and the government will be doing all they can to help that. Councillor Coleman has quite correctly pointed to in his motion that the triple lock on pensions will stay, and also the expanded household support fund is a reality as well. But it is fair to say that austerity has cast a long shadow on our finances, and it has made things enormously difficult, and the room for manoeuvre of this government, again, is constrained as well as that. Just reflecting on very different circumstances, and I would say New Labour did inherit an economy which was on the up from John Major's Conservative Party. There's no doubt about that, and it enabled New Labour to reduce pensioner and child poverty. New Labour lifted over 1 million children out of poverty, and of course this was abolished under austerity. The Sure Start scheme was abolished. New Labour also helped 1.8 million people into work, and I think this highlights the fact that the best way to combat poverty in the long run is to create jobs, is to grow the economy and ensure there is more money, high quality jobs in place. But now we've inherited a broken economy, it's fair to say, and also society. The figure that Councillor Coleman has mentioned, that 30% of children in Bexhill and Battle are in poverty, is a shocking indictment of the austerity which we're still trying to recover from. I'm naturally interested in housing. It's the portfolio that I hold in the Cabinet, and the poverty that is caused by not having an adequate roof or shelter over your head is immense in terms of limiting life chances, but also limiting life expectancy in some regards as well. Members will be aware that in the government figures that we give to Delta through the government on housing, there were 16 rough sleepers in our district in January alone, an increase of 6. And that's 16 too many as far as I'm concerned. So
just 1 minute, Mr. McCall. Sorry? Just 1 minute.
Okay, no problem. 6,000 children in a bed and breakfast, 39,000 people, households are placed outside their local area. I'm glad the government is going forward with the programme for 1.5 million, but as I said, I'll just leave you with a quote from John Fitzgerald Kennedy when he said that a rising tide lifts all boats, and what he meant by that is if we can get the economy growing, all sections of society will benefit. So I urge members here tonight to support this motion. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor McCall. Do I have another speaker on this motion, please? Councillor Barnes.
Yes, Chairman, I wish to move an amendment to the motion. I've circulated, and I'm grateful to Lisa Cooper, the wording. There is a small grammatical error where I've used a semicolon. It should have an and then a comma. With that amendment, I could read it out, but it will take time to read out. Can I take it that all members have read it?
Can I just check, would members of the council like to know exactly what the amendment said? I can see some yeses, so could you please, read it out? That would be
I will read it.
To council, please.
In that case, it's to insert after the words winter fuel payment in paragraph 1, the words rather than tax it, and to replace all words after will have affected with the words significant numbers of Rother residents, and while applauding the work of officers, members and local organisations in championing pension credit take-up, does not believe it was able to minimise the hardship over the winter, nor will it help all those adversely affected. Paragraphs 2, 3, 4 and 5 stand unchanged, but in paragraph 6, my amendment is to delete all words after tackling poverty and replace them with the words, and to urge the government to reverse its restriction of winter fuel payments to those in receipt of pension credit, instead taxing such payments as income. I do take Councillor McCall's point about the size of our welfare payments very seriously. I'm sorry, however, he indulged in a bit of politics. I will try not to follow him. What we are paying the price for, and I speak here as a historian, is a major financial crisis, a major pandemic, and a war in Ukraine. Whether or not you agree with austerity, you have to actually put your finances into order, and that is what the current government is trying to do to its credit. And it's finding it as difficult as the previous government because we are actually not engendering growth. And without growth, you either have to put up taxes, which hinders growth, or you have to find ways of actually economizing. What I've tried to do is to point out that the winter fuel payment which is a classic example of Whitehall ineptitude, perhaps of Treasury ineptitude. Because what it did was, first of all, to fix too low a threshold. Secondly, that's a cliff edge, so that if you go over, you instantly pay, you instantly forfeit the entire winter fuel credit. Thirdly, the form for applying, which is page after page, 59, I think, of absolute gobbledygook, means that people actually can't fill it in, even though they need the pension credit. And finally, the delays, because people have been trying to apply for it, mean that it wasn't paid to large numbers of pensioners this winter until the winter was nearly over. That's the situation we faced. Now, clearly, people like me, who are in receipt of a good occupational pension, don't need the winter fuel payment in the way that those on pension credit do, but the people who are really hit are those who are just over the pension credit level, because they are poor by any standards and they need help. And what we need to do, therefore, is to find a system which actually graduates, does produce revenue for the Treasury. And the obvious answer is to tax the winter fuel payment. That way you achieve the kind of graduation that I'm talking about, and you actually do have a system that would work and would help genuinely those who are poor. What I've tried to do is to suggest something that we can discuss with the government rather than simply express concern. In other words, I've tried to put a few teeth in a motion which otherwise has support. Thank you very much.
Councillor Barnes, do I have a seconder to the motion? Councillor, the amendment. Councillor Clark, are you seconding? I need a seconder first, please. Councillor Graham. That's it. We have a seconder now. So let's debate the motion. Who wishes to speak to the motion? Councillor Clark?
I want to speak in reply to Councillor Coleman's motion. Yeah.
But we're now on the amendment, so you've had to address the amendment, Councillor.
That's a funny one.
Yeah? Councillor Coleman? Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. I'm afraid I'm going to have to disagree with Councillor Barnes' amendment to this motion. On two counts, really. The first being that Councillor Barnes has amended it to say that the work of officers and our partner organisations has not been able to minimise the hardship over the winter, when in fact I know for a fact that it has. As part of my chairing of our Equality Steering Group meeting, we have been informed that residents have been identified, households where there are people likely to be eligible for pension credit but for whom have not applied for it, have been located, have been contacted through several means, and as a result, more people have taken up pension credit. So we have been able to minimise it to some extent. The other reason I have to disagree with this, and I feel like Councillor Barnes makes that point when he talks about adding teeth to the motion, is I feel like I wrote this motion very much in the spirit of today's meeting, in terms of cross-party collaboration, in terms of focusing on local issues and focusing on the actions that we're already doing and the actions that we can do to address this very serious issue. I avoided making unnuanced political points where I could have done. I could have talked about the damage that austerity did. I could have talked about the context of the many times the Conservative government enforced stricter and stricter means testing on many other benefits, including to the disabled. And I sat in PIP assessments when that first wave of changes came. Councillor Maynard, I am speaking. I would appreciate respect. I sat in a PIP assessment when those changes came in and heard the humiliating questions that my relative was being asked, probed about, to try and prove that they weren't actually disabled. And so I think if Councillor Barnes is going to add more teeth,
please.
Thank you. If Councillor Barnes is going to add more teeth, then he needs to also add context on the other side of this to justify those teeth. He needs to establish the context. I think actually the original motion is better. It avoids those party political points. It avoids those unnecessarily charged teeth And in fact, it is actually trying to do good, focus on the actions we are doing and can do. And I think that is what we can all hopefully agree to support. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Coleman. So the contributions on the amendment, please. Councillor Maynard.
Thank you, Chairman. I think that the amendment that Councillor Barnes puts forward is very thoughtful and well researched. And I think that, again, a lot has been said about context and the past. The reality is the amendment makes the clear case that this authority is opposed to the government's change in winter fuel payments, but also that this authority, because that is in the amendment, is still broadly in support, if it's supported, of the motion that you've brought today. What Councillor Barnes proposes is a refinement of the motion that the Conservative group brought to this authority last year, and indeed the one that you bring today. I would have thought that there could have been unanimity in this chamber in terms of the fact that we don't want to see residents in Rother who are adversely affected by the changes in winter fuel payments. There is no doubt whatsoever that people are being adversely affected this winter. And Chairman, frankly, this government is just lucky that we haven't had a severe winter and that we've had an unseasonably mild winter. The fact of the matter remains the amendment that Councillor Barnes proposes does nothing to denigrate the motion that Councillor Coleman has moved. It simply gives the context that Councillor Coleman has spoken about, and it also gives the very good reasons as to why this government should reinstate the winter fuel payment, which those on this side of the chamber strongly approve of.
Thank you, Councillor Maynard. Councillor Mayor, please, and then Councillor Pochak.
Chair, the problem that I have with Councillor Barnes' amendment is that it proposes rather specific alternatives to what the government has done. And I don't think this is the place to debate that. My own party, I know, would have done things differently. I expect many people would have done things differently. But I don't think that this august body here is the place to decide on those particular details. And so on those grounds, I'm against the amendment. I'd also like to take Councillor Barnes up for an omission in listing the reasons for the country's present woes, and the omission is Brexit. That has made us all poorer, we're worse off, we've gained nothing, and we have given up so much national time, energy and angst over this, and it needs to be stated very clearly that we'd all be better off less poor, fewer children in poverty, had we not gone down this route.
Thank you, Councillor Mayor. Councillor Pochak.
Thank you. I love the way Councillor Barnes does his speech, like criticising another member for being political, and then immediately is political himself, and does it with such innocence. I'm right, I'm in a way agreeing with Councillor Mayor, because our policy as a Lib Dem, not the Alliance hasn't got a policy as an alliance, but as a Lib Dem, our policy was not to do the winter fuel allowance at all. It wasn't to tax it, it wasn't to do it at all. So I'm not going to support Councillor Barnes's amendment at all, because I think the proposal in front of us, without the amendment, actually says that the leader of the council and the portfolio holder for equalities, wellbeing and age-friendly communities writes to the Ministry of Housing, communities and local government to highlight the positive work we do as an organisation tackling poverty, and to express our concerns. Now, the thing is that I know that this government's got a lot on its plate, but it can't have failed to notice that there are concerns over the winter fuel payments. And somebody deep in Whitehall must be thinking, what can we do about this? So I think they will have ideas themselves, but also the thing that will influence them is that actually not that much money is going to be raised through this. So at some point we're going to get this changed, and that we're expressing our concerns says get on with it. So I can't support it. I think your motion is fine as it is.
Mr. Projak, are there any more contributions in relation to the amendment? There don't appear any, but Councillor Coleman, if you wish, you can sum up on behalf of your original motion. That is the rule of the Council. Yeah, okay, so because I'd already spoken, I think, yeah, my apologies. That. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to put the amendment to the vote. Those in favour of the amendment, please show. And those against, please show. Sorry. And any abstentions, please? There are none, so I declare the amendment to be lost. We now return to the main motion. Are there any contributions on the main motion, please? Councillor Clark, I think, is the first.
Yes, Chairman. The difficulty I have with Councillor Coleman's motion is because the issues around poverty I strongly agree with, but it's also mixed in with a statement on the winter fuel allowance. And the motion states that, people are very careful when they use words, the winter fuel allowance affected some Rother residents. Really? Some means a small number. 33% of Rother residents are over 65, out of a population of 93,000. I think you can do the maths. 30,000 lost their allowance. Thank God, as has been said, we had a very mild winter. All the measures...
Members, please, the Councillor Clark has the floor. Thank you.
All the measures in this motion were already in place before Labour's famous election victory. Household support grant, that was in place with the previous government. Terms of tax reduction, this council has always had that. Warm homes scheme, that's always been there. It'd be better if Labour was to say on this motion that they regret removal of the winter fuel allowance, not play down the effect it has on our Rother pensioners. They have put some of our Rother pensioners into fuel poverty. Yes, some residents are well off, but the majority are not, and they needed the fuel allowance. I've not heard from many pensioners who were successful in applying for pensioner credit. I tried to help some in my ward, but because they've got a small private pension, then they are just over the limit. All my life as a politician, my residents always say, why can't you get a yes or no answer from a politician? This is a perfect example, because this motion, it neither supports the government's position on the winter fuel allowance, nor does it condemn it. They say if you want a straight answer, yes or no, don't ask a politician.
Just to let everybody know, we're near to our 30-minute limit on this subject. Councillor Kirby-Green, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I would just like to add to Councillor McCourt's comments. He's correct. The Labour government, New Labour, did inherit an improving economy. However, when the Conservatives took over from New Labour, they did bring on austerity. You may remember that Liam Byrne left a note saying, sorry, there is no money left. The reason is because the Conservatives actually inherited a decreasing economy, which is why we had to go into austerity.
Thank you, Councillor Kirby-Green. Any further contributions on the main motion? If not, I'll move to the vote. I think probably, Councillor Coleman, you've had a reasonable chance to express your views. Is that reasonable? Can you? Yes, you spoke to the amendment, so yes, you can sum up the main motion. Yeah, cheers, sorry. Councillor Coleman.
Thank you, Chair. I'll be quick. I did hope this motion would bring a similar sense of unity and cooperation as the rest of this meeting, and it seems there are some pernickety points that people want to sort of look over. But I think the core message of this motion is actually quite clear. I don't agree that it's fudged. I think it is quite clear. As an authority, we commit to tackling poverty in every way that we can, and we want to write to government to express the good work we've already done and to encourage them to do more to tackle poverty, and to express our concerns with the changes to the winter fuel allowance, an allowance that the Labour Party brought in. I think this motion is clear, it is balanced, it is reasonable, and it focuses on actions and the local picture. And for that reason, I hope everyone can support it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Coleman. I shall now put the motion to the vote. Those in favour, please show. And those against, please show. Two. I think and any abstentions, please? Well, I think I would be in order to say that motion was carried overwhelmingly. Now we come to agenda item 11, which is the motion proposed by Councillor Mear. Councillor Mear, please.
Chair, I hope you don't mind me addressing the meeting from a sedentary position. I would be standing over you, which would be wrong, I think, if I were to stand.
Councillor, I've been used at my particular height to people towering over me, so that would be fine. Thank you.
Thank you. The wording of the motion I'm putting forward is short, and deliberately so. I'm not trying to open up a debate about whether or not we should have an elected mayor. I'm taking it as read for the purposes of this evening that we will have such a mayor, and I think Councillor Maynard has indicated that thought earlier on this evening. So I'm not going to discuss the principle of having a mayor, nor would I wish to discuss the exact means of achieving the winning candidate having 51% support from the electorate. Only the principle that the elected mayor should be elected by a means which ensures that they genuinely have the support of a majority of those who are voting. I would also say that I'm not addressing the question of parliamentary elections, which is a different issue. Though on that, I note that a couple of years ago, this council voted in favour of proportional representation in parliamentary elections. That's a while ago, and half of us are new councillors since then. What I'm concerned about is that the political scene has changed. There are now many more parties in the running with a serious chance of getting a decent number of votes. And if you were to have, say, 4 or 5 candidates standing and getting roughly the same number of votes, it would be quite possible to have a mayor elected by first past the post with as little as 20 or 25% of the vote. I noticed that in last year's North Yorkshire and York mayoral election, the winner had only 35% of the vote. And I also note that since 2022, which is since the present voting system has been in place, candidates winning with less than 40% are nearly half. Nearly half of the mayors elected have been elected on less than 40% of the vote. And I don't think this is acceptable in a modern society. There was, until 2022, a second choice system. It was called a supplementary vote, and I'm not going down that rabbit hole. There was a system whereby second votes got counted, but the previous government withdrew that system and reverted to first past the post, which I think was a retrograde step. The only country in Europe to use first past the post now is Belarus. And over 80% of democracies in the world use proportional representation. So we are very much an outlier, and we really do not need to have this system for mayoral elections. I'm also concerned that the turnout tends to be low in mayoral elections, but possibly because people feel their votes are not going to be counted or will be worthless. The turnout tends to be about 30%, and which means that a mayor could be elected on 30% or 25% of 30%, so a minority of minority, very small number of people might actually support a person who the government, and the government's made this very clear, is a person with a lot of powers devolved from central government, powers passed up from the lower authorities, a very powerful person with relatively few controls over how they will work in the areas.
1 minute, Councillor.
Thank you. And to give an extreme example, the first time that there was the Police and Crime Commissioner post was elected in 2012, I think, in this area, only 12% of the electorate turned out. We've got to do better than this. We've got to have a modern democratic system. No system is perfect, but let us at least try. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Meehan. Do I have a seconder to the motion, please? Councillor Bayliss. Okay, now I open the subject to debate. Who wishes to speak first, please? Councillor Maynard.
Chairman, you'll be glad to hear I'll be relatively succinct. If Councillor Meyer thinks that by changing the voting system you will increase voter turnout, you're absolutely deluded, and I say that in the nicest possible way. There is no way that by just tinkering with the voting system that you will get more members of the public engaged in the process. That's just a nonsense. And secondly, be careful what you wish for, because what you were talking about would actually potentially lead to parties, for example, of the far left and the far right actually increasing their representation, and indeed that I think we'd all agree across this chamber would be a dangerous way forward. We've just seen what's happened in Germany. We've just seen what's happened in a number of other European elections where they use the type of system that he's talked about. First past the post works. It's proven. Members of the public know what they're doing. They know what their vote means. If it isn't broken, don't try and fix it. And that is our position. And Chairman, I would remind you, through you to Councillor Meyer, you reminded us on the previous motion, don't try and influence what you can't influence. I really don't think that this is an appropriate motion for Rother District Council. If you want to expound it as Lib Dem policy, feel free to do so, but we're not with you on that, Chairman. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Maynard. The consensus that has characterised so much of the evening doesn't necessarily seem to extend to this particular subject. Councillor Prochak, please.
Surprise, surprise, I support it. It's interesting Councillor Maynard uses the old rhetoric to say this doesn't work. No system is perfect, has already been said. No system is perfect. But democracy is the best one that we've got. It really is. I really do believe in that. And I came across a really interesting quote from Camus. He said, "Be careful when a democracy is sick." And I think our democracy is sick. Turnout is so low. People have lost trust totally in politics. They're all the same. They all lie. They're all in it for themselves. And so there's a lack of trust totally in politics because there are areas where people just have never been able to vote for the person they want to get in, ever. Think about the last election. I know you don't want a debate about that, but the last election was probably the worst example, and the Labour Party recognise it. And there's a cross-party working group at the moment, and this Labour are quite supportive of that. That the last election was absolutely extraordinary, where the Greens, they got more than 20% of the vote and 1% of the seats. That cannot be right. And so I think the trust is a big thing. And 80% of the democracies have got PR, as you said, and Belarus. Do we want to be with Belarus? No. I think as well, the thing about this mayoral election is that we haven't heard about the devolution aspects of it. We don't know what's going to happen, what's going to be devolved. But it's more power for one person, for fewer people. And that means that somehow or other it's got to be held accountable. And so I think these mayoral elections, I want all elections to be by proportional representation, to be fair to people's wishes. And yes, there are more parties now. And yes, it's still possible for the far right to get in. But it takes an awful lot of work and a long time to get there. And it's still the better, PR is still the better system than first past the post.
Thank you, Councillor Plowchak. I have in this order Clark, Coleman and Field. So Clark first. Councillor Clark, please.
Thank you, Chairman. It's not black and white, is it? Because at the last general election, Reform got 4 million votes and 5 MPs. They got more votes than Liberal Democrats. They got over 70 seats. So you can play it both ways, can't you? You know, I do believe in a system where I think it encourages people more to vote if their vote counts, if there is pulpit rotation. Because most governments over recent years have been elected with way below 50% of the popular vote. I always remember there was a seat in Leicestershire some years ago where I think the Conservatives won it with 25,000, Labour 24 and Liberal Democrats 23. So 50,000 opposition votes and 25 for the person who took the seat. So it's a difficult one. It's a difficult one to analysis.
Councillor Clark. It occurs to me that this is a subject where there are so many ramifications to it that we could debate all of them for a very, very long time. I would just like to remind members of the advantages. I'm not going to prevent anybody from exercising their right of free speech, but just actually remind members of the advantage of focusing upon the motion as written, which concentrates upon the mayoral elections. Having said that, Councillor Coleman, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Probably won't surprise anyone to know that as a bit of a sad politics geek, I've spent quite a lot of time thinking about proportional representation in my free time as I lay in bed at night. And I flip both ways on it sometimes. But I do find Councillor Maynard's sort of proposition interesting because it sort of suggests that we should only pursue greater democracy when the results are going to go our way. And I think the cause of democracy, whether you're a Liberal Democrat, Social Democrat, a Democratic Socialist or just a Democrat, is to pursue democracy for democracy's sake and then to deliver your pitch on the field of ideas and hope that people listen to you. And Councillor Maynard mentioned Germany, and of course what we actually see in Germany is despite a reasonable showing from a far-right party, nonetheless, what is a majority of quite central liberal parties are now likely to have to form a coalition government and to form a partnership and a cooperation. So I actually think perhaps that's worked quite well. But I think, looking locally, I think the nearest example we probably have to this is the Police and Crime Commissioner elections, which were, until the last one, proportional. And there was I think it was a single transferable vote system in place. And Katie Bourne, the Conservative Police and Crime Commissioner, has won several elections on that basis. However, this last election, she won without a majority of the vote because the system had been changed not too long before to first past the post. And I do think that is slightly poorer for democracy, and so I'm inclined to support this motion as a result. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Coleman. Councillor Thill, please.
Thank you. This is so straightforward for me. I'm always surprised that we have a debate at all. Because in essence, it's about fairness. It's about making sure that what you think gets taken account of. I think back to a London mayoral election some years ago when one of my children who lived there said, I'm going to vote Liberal Democrat. He said, we won't win. He said, I'm absolutely sick of having to vote for somebody just because I don't want the other one to win. He said, I want to vote for somebody who I think is the right person for the job. And as Councillor Coleman said, you can't, we're free, we're proud to be free, we look around the world and see what's going on. If proportional representation means we get representatives in our governing body who we don't like, well, that's the price of freedom. We cannot manipulate the system to make sure people who are one of us are the only ones who get elected. I have no hesitation in supporting this.
Thank you, Councillor Thill. I now have Councillor Barnes, followed by Councillor Bayliss.
Chairman, Councillor Coleman, of course, I speak as somebody who taught government in Europe for 40 years. Councillor Coleman talks about a single transferable vote as a proportional system. It is not. It is a majoritarian system. And if we were talking about majoritarian against proportionality, I think that would be quite an interesting debate. And I will say something about that, but I think on the motion itself, it would be confusing to the electorate if you elected your unitary authorities on one system and a mayor on a quite different system. Councillor Field is quite consistent. She would want proportional representation all the way through. What are the consequences of that in Europe? 2 or 3 things stand out. First of all, manifestos become much less specific because people are going to go into a bargain over coalition, and therefore they don't want to commit themselves too far because they know they're going to have to make compromises. Where are those compromises made? Not in front of the electorate, but in smoke-filled rooms between politicians. Far from being democratic and giving the electorate control over the process, this gives more control to the politicians. And that's why basically I favour a majoritarian system. Whether it should be first past the post or single transferable vote, slightly different issue. But at the end of the day, I think majoritarian systems give control to the electorate in this country. And what the electorate want is a stable government that will deliver the manifesto on which it was elected. That is what they vote for. And that is why...
1 minute, Councillor Barnes.
Yes, and that is precisely why, although I hate the fact that we have a Labour government, I will support its right to be there because it won a first past the post majoritarian election. And I think on the whole the benefits of that outweigh the disadvantages of having a Labour government.
Thank you, Councillor Barnes. Councillor Bayliss, who may not entirely agree with that. Councillor Bayliss.
Yes, thank you. No, you'd be quite correct. I don't actually agree with it. I'm going to take a leaf out of Councillor Elliston's book, and actually everything has been said by Councillor Prochak and the Vice Chairman, Councillor Meir. I think we are talking about the mayoralty election, that election standing on its own, and I absolutely agree that that should be done on proportional representation principles. I know I was at the same university as Councillor Barnes, and I know that we could debate PR systems for about the next week, so we won't do that, but I support your motion. Thank you.
Councillor Bayliss. Any further contributions on this subject, please? If not, I give Councillor Meir the chance to sum up the debate.
Very briefly, Chair, just to pick up on a few of the points which have come from mostly from Councillor Barnes. All the discussion about coalitions is really completely irrelevant to the motion in front of us tonight, because we're talking about an election for one post, and one person can't form a coalition with themselves. So the problem simply doesn't arise. So we can leave that out. It's also, the debate's not really about proportional representation. As I said, I wanted to park that to one side, the exact means by which the 51% might be obtained. There are so many different ways in which that can be done. It's just simply the principle that there should be majority support for whoever is elected to this important post. And lastly, it's not about party advantage. It may well be that a different voting system, different from first past the post, might work to the advantage of the Conservatives this time round. Now that a certain other party, beginning with the letter R, is in the ascendant. Who knows? We've got to trust the electorate, and that's the important thing. We must get a real majority where people feel that they are involved and their votes are being counted. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Meir. I will now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour, please show. And those against, please. And abstentions, please. Brave man. So the conclusion then, I declare that motion to be, again, overwhelmingly carried. And now we come to the last motion. So I call upon, where are we? There we are. This one, I got it. So, Councillor Gordon, please.
Thank you, Chair. Well, my motion is about hospitality. So I know we all come from different political persuasions, but I love you all, I can assure you. So my motion is, the hospitality motion is agenda item 12 on page 95. So I'd like to sort of amend that. So from the third paragraph down is the motion I'm proposing, basically. And I'm sure you'll agree, pubs and restaurants are the beating heart of rural and urban communities in Rother, and it is vital we do support them. There'll shortly be quite a punitive national insurance charge on the pubs employing people, and some businesses may be forced to close, unfortunately, and that is my experience from talking to a few publicans and restaurant owners. They are very concerned. A recent Guardian article put the hospitality business, the whole business within the UK, at the additional costs of £3.4 billion. Wetherspoons are looking per pub at about £80,000 per pub, so it's quite an increase. And then we have the business rate increase of 150%. And those figures come from Colliers. The average business rate on a pub at the moment within the UK is about £4,000. That will increase to £9,642. That's nearly £10,000. So that is an increase of business rates of £150. The previous government did introduce the Retail, Hospitality and Leisure Relief Scheme in November 2022 to cushion the sector from high rate bills that many could not afford. The hospitality sector is on its knees and it needs our support. And for this motion, I will request a recorded vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to ask Councillor Gordon just to clarify where the motion is starting. Is it from the word therefore or from the word rather? Thank you.
It's from the word therefore, the Council requests the Cabinet. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And Councillor Cook next, please.
Thank you. I'd like to support the sentiments you've expressed. In Battle alone, we have lost a very well-known hospitality restaurant. We have lost a Mini Mouthfuls fudge shop because she was so popular, she was doing so well, but she couldn't afford to employ anybody else. And we are about to lose our very famous Spoilt Rotten sweetie shop right by the Abbey. I mean, this is disastrous, not just for the high street, but also for all the young people. This hospitality supports so many young people and their economy, and it's vital that the hospitality is supported so that young people have the chance to earn some money to help them through schools, colleges and universities. I think it's really important that we should support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cook. Next is Councillor Stanger. Stanger.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just to say, as someone that manages a hospitality business with 11 employees in Bexhill and someone that's part of Bexhill's hospitality, I'm part of a group represents the majority of the pubs, the restaurants, the clubs in Bexhill. We're all facing, since the pandemic, it's been so difficult. And then we had the crippling commercial energy charges, which wasn't capped, like things like that. So it has been really difficult. So I support the premise of the motion. It's difficult. Action needs to be taken on a low level as well as a government level to help the hospitality.
Stanger. Councillor Cormann, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I might suggest Councillor Gordon he removes the word therefore as well, so that it starts with the council rather than therefore with nothing behind it.
Okay, understood.
I'm delighted to support the motion as amended. I think pubs, clubs, hospitality venues are really important, really crucial, and we should support them in every way we can. In Sidley, as Councillor Chowdhury and I know well, we have some very cherished local pubs and hospitality venues. And I'd like to take this opportunity to express, hopefully, the whole council's thoughts for Lewis and the team at the New Inn, who obviously after the tragic fire are currently without a source of income, without a business, and the locals are without their favourite pub, the best pub, I would argue, in Sussex, or one of. There's 2 pubs in Sidley. But I think, despite my rotund figure, I'm actually not a frequent pub goer, although politicians in pubs does seem quite fashionable at the moment from a PR standpoint. But I do really respect and value the sense of community that pubs foster, and from a sort of well-being point of view, having a place that you can go to socialise, to talk to people, that isn't a political environment like this, which is quite daunting to go to. It isn't, a hospital or a venue with other sort of motives and other ulterior things that are going on. Just a place you can go, relax, chill out, socialise is really important and really fundamental to well-being, especially in sort of working class and lower socioeconomic areas, where that sense of community can really be fostered. In Sidley, that's certainly true. And so we should do everything we can to support pubs and hospitality venues, especially after the pandemic. And so I support this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Cormann. Councillor Clark, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I also support this. I've got quite a few friends in businesses who run businesses and cafe owners and even shops like the Co-op where they're saying they're not taking on any more staff. They would try and survive with handing out overtime to existing staff. So that's depressing job creation. And also, there's been occasions where the Co-op has had to shut for half a day because they couldn't find anybody to cover those hours. So there's all sorts of issues around this. I love pubs. All my life I've enjoyed going to a pub. And I've found the best, if I'm feeling down and a bit depressed, 3 pints of real ale and a live band. and I'm there. And so, yes, keep the pubs going and the restaurants, because we need them.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Members of the Council might be entertained to know that before this evening's debate, we had a serious discussion about whether we should declare an interest in certain circumstances. On this motion, for example, should you declare an interest if you like a drink? It would appear that Councillor Clark is in the category. OK, we now come to Councillor Maynard, please.
Thank you, Chairman. And what a good word rotund is, but I haven't heard it since the Victorian era.
I hear it quite often.
But the reality is, in the Victorian era, our pubs were at the corner of every road, and it is one thing that is quintessentially British that is being depleted year on year. And always makes me sad when I take the Observer newspaper, the local Observer, and they often run the same feature that they've run for a long time, which is the disappearance of pubs in Hastings. But it is, whilst you accept that society changes, the reality is that since COVID, people have changed the way that they conduct their social lives, and pubs, unfortunately, the traditional wets offer of going for a beer in your local that's definitely been a seismic shift, and pubs now chiefly cater for a food and drink offer. But they are somewhere to meet. They are absolutely important. And whether it's the Queen's Head in Settlescombe, the New Inn in Westfield, we know they've all been suffering. They've got to obviously pay staff's wages, national insurance increase. We've heard about various other tax increases. We know that they are all struggling. And it's not just pubs, it's the whole hospitality industry. So, we've seen, a certain place close in Canberra. Wherever you look within Rother, the hospitality industry, we're not going to say it's on its knees, but it's struggling. And anything we can do as councillors or the council, I think it's a key area where we can help people to help themselves. I know that's declare an interest, that's a county council phrase, but seeing as we've talked about phrases, but the reality is I think we can do more, and I think that, not just be a talking shop about this. I think that the motion is a serious one and one that we should all applaud. But I think we can do more, and I hope that something that will come out of this, and I'm seeing Councillor Bayliss nodding, so I'm sure she'll agree with me when I say that actually we need as a council to go out and engage with publicans. We need to go out and engage with those in the hospitality sector. Councillor Creaser is offering to take everybody around various hostelries in Rye, but on a serious note, it's a key area where, I mean, of all the businesses that contact me now about their struggles that they face, they tend to be in the hospitality industry. And I think, were we to go out to them or organise something here where we're actually looking at tangible ways that we can help them, I think it would be really helpful. And I'm sure there might be, obviously everyone will declare any beers that they are offered as part of those negotiations, but I think it'd be a really good idea. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you very much, Councillor Maynard. And now it's Councillor McGurk, followed by Councillor Osborne, and then Councillor Bayliss. Councillor McGurk.
Thanks, Chair. Welcome the amended motion. Happy to lead the charge on engaging with publicans. I'm there already. I did actually pop over the road to that one in the corner just before, so maybe I should declare an interest. But really conscious of the many ways in which pubs and hospitality venues have supported our communities for the last few years, the crucial role they've played, and that's very much reflected in by a very well-known in Rye and Winchelsea catchphrase from Rye Fine Wines, which is "Stay safe, drink wine," and I think that's very apt, and it certainly worked for me. So just to point out, though, it's encouraging, I think, for all of us to note that the new government took action in the budget to support British pubs by cutting alcohol duty on draft products, and that makes up around 60% of the alcoholic drinks sold in pubs, and that reduces it by 1 pence per average strength pint from February 25. So there are some positive. It's not a great picture. We want to support pubs and hospitality venues as much as possible, but it's important to point out what is happening as well. We're increasing the relief available on draft products to 13.9%, and that will reduce businesses' total duty bill by over 85 million a year. So there are some encouraging figures from the last budget as well. But welcome the motion and welcome the opportunity to support our fantastic hospitality venues.
Thank you, Councillor McGurk. Councillor Osborne, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Obviously, I support this motion. I would say that in my own patch in Eastern Rother, in Iden specifically, about 2.5 years ago, the local pub, the only remaining local pub, closed. A community effort has been going on since then to purchase the pub. We got it registered as an asset of community interest, so it can't be sold from without the offer going to the group first. The trouble is, before the election, they had a bid into the Plunkett Foundation, I believe it's called, for some £250,000, which would have matched the money they raised in the village, which is equally £250,000. The only issue is that since the election, the government haven't reinstated the Plunkett Fund or don't have a mechanism to apply to it. So at the moment, that bid is on hold, which is unfortunate. And as yet, I believe the group haven't found anywhere else that this fund is available to bid from. So if there's Councillor Bayliss, who might have the ear of a minister or somebody, if they can give them a poke and say, can you get the Plunkett Fund up and running again, or something very similar, that would be most welcome, and the community can buy their pub and hopefully get it reopened. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. And now I have Councillor Bayliss, followed by Councillor Barnes.
Yes, thank you very much. And yes, it's a great pleasure in my particular role to promote and champion the pub industry. I know there's more to do. I know we have got our work cut out, and I would echo what Councillor Maynard said when he talked about, the changing nature of hospitality and how people, wet pubs on their own are probably you know, not as successful as those pubs that have diversified into food and other activities. I just thought I'd talk about, for 30 seconds, some of the things that we are doing in relation to pubs. So we've now taken on 1066 Marketing, or Councillor Timpey runs that, and there is a dedicated pub page on the 1066 Marketing site promoting those pubs in 1066 country. We're attempting to draw in a thing called Sussex 6 at the moment, which is about joining suppliers and pubs together to promote Sussex products, Sussex produce. And Councillor Kirby Green, myself and Councillor Timpey, we all supported the brewery building at Ticehurst Lakeside Brewery, which is a fantastic local facility, brewing local beers. We've supported the Three Legs Brewery coming into the Beeching Road studios. So we're doing an awful lot of stuff. Through COVID, the majority of the grants that came down were from central government, but we made a special effort, and we were one of the leading authorities in getting those grants out very quickly to our hospitality. You know, I mean, some of our neighbouring authorities were weeks after us. We really worked very hard to get those grants out. And of course, we used our Welcome Back grant, our post-COVID recovery grants, if you like, to promote eating locally. And finally, I'd just like to say that as the Labour Party locally, we have a thing called Politics and a Pint every month, where we meet in a local pub. And I think, Chair, you've actually joined us for one of our Politics and a Pint sessions. So we would commend that idea.
I declare an interest.
I would commend that idea to other political parties. It's a really good way of promoting local businesses. Thank you.
Councillor Bayliss. I just can't resist pointing out the word rotund, of course, it's another word to round, and therefore an appropriate word to use in a debate about pubs. And can I just further add a personal thing? Because I failed to buy my round when I was younger, I got the nickname of Richard Crime Thomas on the grounds that crime doesn't pay. I now call upon Councillor Barnes.
Chairman, I don't really want to add very much to this because most of it's been said already. Having grandchildren in the hospitality business, I'm well aware of just how much they are struggling at the moment. Facing quite unprecedented increases in cost from April. We haven't yet seen those changes bite. What I did want to emphasise, and I'm slightly surprised that nobody's emphasised it already, is that hospitality is at the heart also of our tourist business, which is probably the single most important industry in this district. And if you don't have a flourishing hospitality sector, then the tourist business too will be suffering. And that seems to me a very good reason for supporting this motion.
Are there any further contributions? Councillor Burton, please.
Thank you, Chair. Well, lots has been said to support this motion, and I too, because it affects our smallest villages to the biggest towns. It's the whole of Rother that is affected. I wanted to just go back on the wording of the motion because it particularly mentions petroleum filling stations. And as we look forward to more electric cars, we shouldn't just stick to petroleum filling stations for our support. I hope I'm not being pedantic. Oh, I didn't have my thing on. Oh, you did, you turn it off? No. Oh, well.
On a point of clarity, Councillor Gordon.
Yeah, point of clarity. I've got it, that's it. I've decided to support the motion. I may well defect to Labour if there's free pints available. But, oh, okay. Okay, thanks very much. I very much appreciate your councillor's support. Thank you.
Very much. Good points, well made. We now move to, sorry, Councillor Kirby Green wished to say something. So we've had the summing up, so now we must move to the vote. Okay. Move to the vote.
Chairman, I did request a recorded vote, but I think that's totally unnecessary. Oh, yeah, amendment to service stations as opposed to petrol stations. The amendment. Would that make that?
Yes, you can change your own motion.
Yeah.
You're welcome to do that.
Yeah.
What is the position about withdrawing a request? We're fine with withdrawing the idea for a recorded vote. I think this is unanimity breaking out again. Those in favour of the motion, please show. No, he's withdrawn that. And those against, please. And any, I suppose the word is abstentions. Sorry. Okay. Any abstentions? No? Okay. I declare that motion carried. Now we move on to the next item on the agenda, which is nominations. We move now to nominations, please, for Chair and Vice Chair of Council 2023 to 26. It's the Council's custom to nominate its Chair and Vice Chair of the Council at this meeting prior to the annual meeting being held in May. This is to enable the smooth transition from one chair to another and to aid administrative matters behind the scenes. Do I have therefore any nominations, please, for the appointment of Chair of Council for 2025 to 26? Councillor, yes, Councillor Cook.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to nominate Councillor Andrew Mear to be the next chairman of the council. I have a great admiration for this gentleman. I think he will be a splendid chairman following in your excellent example. Thank you.
Do I have a seconder to that, please?
I'm very happy to second.
Councillor Oliver. Are there any other nominations, please? As there's only the one nomination, I do not need to put it any further, and so Councillor Mear is chosen as the next nomination to Chair of Council. Congratulations.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members. I shall do my best to live up to the trust reposed in me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Congratulations, Andrew. Do I have a nomination, please, for the Vice Chair of Council? Councillor Bayes.
Yes, I would like to nominate Councillor Legg. Councillor Legg was elected onto Rother District Council in 2023. He's been a member of the community. He supports local community organisations. He's involved, and I think he will make an excellent Vice Chair and support to Councillor Mear. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do I have a seconder to that, please? Councillor Creaser. Thank you. Are there any other nominations, please? Councillor Groen.
I would like to nominate Councillor John Barnes.
Thank you very much. Do I have a seconder to the nomination? I do, Councillor Biggs. So in which case we have a ballot. I now hand over to Lisa Cooper.
I forgot to put paper in. Do you want to do it by show of hands?
Apparently, we don't have paper to do this. So can I just, would the council be satisfied if this was done by show of hands in the first instance? So,
No, Chairman.
no. Councillor Maynard.
Point of order, Chairman. It's always been a somewhat strange tradition in this chamber to exactly, we've always to do what we're doing tonight, which is before the annual meeting. My proposition, and I hope it's seconded, is that we actually delay. We have two names in the pot for Vice Chairman. We delay it until the annual meeting.
Well, Councillor Maynard, we have a problem here, which is it's actually on the agenda to be determined tonight, and I believe that Lisa Cooper is preparing now for the usual procedure of having a ballot. So unless...
I believe I'm within my rights to ask for a vote on proposition.
Do we... I mean, I'm not sure that this isn't within the Constitution, actually. Can I just check? Would you mind? Would members please just allow me to consult a little bit about that? when I find out what the constitutional position is on Councillor Maynard's suggestion, please. Can I just take 5 minutes to do that, please? Thank you. It's a motion to defer, basically. And that's okay. Okay. We have discussed the front here, and basically your motion is a legitimate motion to deferral. Okay? So, and Councillor Drayson, please.
Yeah, I'd like to second that, Councillor Maynard's motion.
Okay, we have a second. I propose to move to a vote on the deferral. Those in favour of deferring this matter to the next meeting of full council, please show. This is just the election of vice chair only. And those against the deferral, please show. And any abstentions, please? By quite a narrow margin, that is lost by 17 votes to 15, and so we'll proceed with the ballot. Lisa Cooper, please. Yeah. Thank you.
Is this first past the post?
Can I just point out this vote is not by proportional representation.
Lorna, we have one more.
Okay, you were saying before the meeting you had to prepare for the unexpected, and there was an example of it. So here's the result. There were 9 votes for Councillor Barnes and 23 for Councillor Legg, and 1 blank paper. So there we go. So we have a small paper, you might say. So I declare Councillor Legg to be elected, to be put forward as the next Vice Chair of this Council. Congratulations to Councillor Legg. Well, we have now come to the end of the meeting that concludes this meeting today. Thank you, everybody, for the excellent level of participation, and I declare the meeting closed at 8:43. Thank you very much.
Very good. Well done, Chair.